Thank you, everyone. I think it's been a really eventful day. It's been an insightful day for me. It's been an inspiring day for me on many regards. Are there any reflections that you want to share before we start to do networking, or if you need to head off or anything else? Um, any insights, reflections that you want to share? If there's any questions that you want to throw, that I'll actually just redirect to Rasha anyway. Any insights? Yeah, absolutely.
I think if I listen to the whole of today, there's lots of great, if I reflect on it, there's lots of great people. It's always great to be in the circles with like-minded people. I think when you're with like-minded people that have the same values, you can do things, and things will, you feel energized by the stories, by the people, by seeing the artwork, to the young person that is an example to all of us. When you step out of the building, there's always the people that are either naysayers or it can't be done, or even in listening to the digital education side within refugees, the amount of obstacles and the challenges there on its own of it, you come back to this reality of like, oh, there's so many challenges when it comes to this. And then the climate change, same thing. If you live within that bubble, my thinking and my reflection is, how do we take people along in that journey, but also meet them in the middle? And that was my point earlier. Even with climate change, there's the two spectrums, and the two beliefs. Where's the conversation and the dialogue in the middle? So instead of just sitting in a room with people that value education or value climate change or both, how do we bring the conversation to people that don't? And that is a part of the dialogue and the conversation, that if you want to create impact, because the Dutchies that just had elections, we know about Brexit, we know about the polarization within society of what do we do with refugees, what do we do with climate change, and that is always my challenge with these kinds of conversations of what is the dialogue that we're having with the people that fundamentally are on the other side, and those conversations need to be had rather than the polarization of each other. So, well, we're going on our mission here. It's like, no, there needs to be people and dialogue that happens in the center, so that we can both work towards a trajectory and that takes the whole of society with us. And that is, for me, something that I would love to see in April, May, of like, how do we get more people that are not like-minded, but also people that are on the other side of what are they doing, how are they going forward in terms of these topics. So that's my little 2 cents.
I'll go first, if that's okay. I'm mic'd up now. I'll go first, and then I'll hand over to Rasha. And it reminds me of my days when I was working in technology and selling technology solutions to corporate companies. And it was unified communications at one point, which that didn't work very well. But one of the things that we learned was, don't let the 10% stop the 90% that are trying to make the progress. And that's one of the things that often happens. It's the naysayers, which are usually in the minority, that will slow things down. And in that case, specifically, actually, was people didn't want to let go of their phones. Not their mobile phones, their desktop phones. So they would say, no, we need a phone. I don't want to connect to a laptop, whatever it is. And so that would stop a whole entire organization rolling out unified communications. So what we started to do was actually let them keep their phones. And then we would monitor how often they use their phones. And typically, you'll find that they're using it less and less and less, to the point where you'd come to take their phone and like, yeah, I don't use that anymore. So you don't stop the advancement because of the 10% naysayers. And I think you actually answered your own question earlier when you said you're not disruptors, you're early adopters. And it's the early adopters that facilitate and grease the wheels for those conversations to happen. And I think if you focus on your strengths rather than the weaknesses, and the weaknesses in this case would be that minority, it's actually what's happening here, which is you've got Hugh who's doing something amazing, you've got Eleanor that's doing something amazing, you're doing something amazing, Rasha, Alan's doing something, and now you're connecting those gaps and bridging these conversations and these partnerships, these collaborations. Frankie, Melissa, Anita, it starts to come together. And then you start to get that critical mass. And I think that's the point. And I think, you know, Rasha spoke to that earlier, which is how do we create those bridges where these relationships are forged to move forward rather than focusing on the negative naysayers? Because to be honest with you, some of those people, until they see it, you know, living, breathing, they're not going to believe in it anyway.
And I think part of what I envision in that middle section, and I think it was Anita with her schools and digital education, is like who are the skeptics, who are on the fence? It's actually the parents, and it's not the bricks and mortar schools that are fighting change. It's the parents that are fearful, rather than that they are against it. They have fear, they have doubts, they don't know what they don't know. And how do we put it into terms that they can understand, that we reduce the fear to the obstacles and the challenges? And I think part of the conversation that can be had, especially on these topics of what to educate, how to educate, what is important, what's not important, I think all parents, and there's a potato story that Rasha can share, but all parents can share something about getting back to basics, getting back to nature, put your phone down, get off social media, explore the world, explore nature, get outside. I think there's lovely ways of educating the future generation on that, but collaborating with parents. I think that is a massive key. So it's not just digital education, it's not just AI tutors, it's not just, it is the community-based learning approach, the blended approach between a classroom and the outdoor world. If we embrace that, and if we enhance that, and have the support of teachers and of parents, I think that's a conversation that if we invite people into this space next time, those are the people, almost the stakeholders that might not be the powerful influencers, but they are the most powerful influencers.
Yeah.
Hi. You know, I don't think I ever really left college or school, for that matter. And this space looks very much like a space that I feel very, very, very comfortable in when I was at college. I'd sit in the first row with a little book and write notes, copious notes. And no matter what the class, I'd turn up and go, oh, please teach me more. And I remember being at college thinking, gosh, I feel so fortunate. I'm sitting in this front row being handed life lessons by this extraordinary professor on a silver platter in this incredible classroom. I'd love to be able to give that experience to kids around the world. And I went to my professor and I said, what do you think? Do you think I could do that for the rest of my life? And he said, that's a great idea. You should do that. And I guess I haven't stopped. That was 14 years ago. But what I love doing is taking that idea, putting it in the middle of the table, and inviting people in and saying, hey, what can we do better? Because it's only by doing that that the idea grows and becomes better and bigger. And inviting genuinely people in to collaborate and when it's not just for words' sake, when you're really growing an idea together, you have to start from the grassroots. Because an idea, when you go to your professor and you say, hey, this is the big picture, hooray, you know, they'll always kind of love the concept. But then you've got to get down to the granular. And then you start creating. And that's the very cool part. And it only comes about as when people come in with, or at least with intellectual conversation. It has to stand up, it has to be robust. It has to have its own essence, its own core essence, a golden thread that runs throughout everything, something special, this idea. But it has to be open enough to allow people in as well. So an idea can't be fixed. It has to be something that allows for open collaboration. Because that's the only way that it's ever going to grow. Because by definition, ideas grow and change over time. They have to grow. But it has its own beating heart, its own soul. That's what attracts people to it, is that it has its own essence. So people come because they go, oh, I love that aura, that energy. I love that, of that company. I want to be part of it. But I want to contribute to it. I want to be part of it. And I want to, add to its language. And you can do that. But you can only do that through intellectual conversation and something that's stimulating. And then you progress the narrative. And you can only do that when you allow people in at the grassroots. So over time, ideas do change, but they stay the same.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it does. And I think Alan spoke to this earlier, which is, you two are very different characters, your partners, and it is coming from those different angles. And I think Celine spoke to it earlier when she was here, when she was talking about, slowing down, putting your hands in the dirt, connecting back to nature, having those human connections, which was George, it's easy to take a picture, it's easy to take a video, but actually to sit there and draw somebody in that space and witness that person going through what they're going through is what I consider kind of being witnessed, being blessed. Somebody's blessing you because they're witnessing you. So I think that's the thing. We have a lot of conversations about AI and technology, but one of the things that we don't often talk about is the human technology. And that's a missing piece, which is what helps to create wars and look at different people in different ways, racisms, sexisms and all the rest of it. But actually, once we start to have that dialogue and we do include everybody else, then actually that's how we bridge those gaps. And therefore, those naysayers, those people who are opposing, actually they're not. The question really is what are they opposing? What are they really struggling with? So that slowing down, which is instead of we need to drag them along, instead of they're stopping us and preventing us from doing what we want to be doing, the question is what are you concerned about? Pausing, listening to them, and they feel heard, they feel witnessed, and that's one of the ways that we can bring them along. So yes, getting them in a room definitely. And then listening to what those concerns are, and then helping to build out those solutions together. So,
to your point, there was we had a student that came to one of our drinks, and in every single aspect of her life, she is an extraordinary scholar, Rhodes Scholar, has been extremely successful in her life, and I bow in her. You're an extraordinary woman, and she came to me throughout the drinks, and from a very, very genuine space, she said, "Thank you, I felt seen for the first time in my life." And I really took stock of that. This is an extraordinarily, this woman is so well achieved. And for her to say, "Thank you for seeing me," I really, it took me to my knees. And, you know, this is not only our generation, but many generations who want to be seen. You know, I do believe that. You know, so we can't just hide behind our phones. We need to be seen. And that's why being in the real world is very, very, very important. That's why education happens in the real world and online. But I was absolutely floored by that comment.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other kind of quick reflections? This isn't a Q&A in asking us. It's, you can share what you may have seen or heard today or something that you want to share, because this is the point. All of our voices are important. So, anyone else?
I think I just want to share this. I mean, my voice is loud, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think just a quick, I mean, we already talked about this, but just, so I'm from Afghanistan, and education is very important to me due to my personal challenges. So the Taliban attacked my undergraduate university, so I was stuck at home for 8 months. So in here, I just want to maybe a little bit of raise awareness about the situation in Afghanistan. So currently, girls above 6th grade, they are not allowed to go to school, and they are stuck in their homes. And it's a very challenging situation, and it's been the 3rd year right now that is going on since August 2021. So the situation is very dire. And so through my nonprofit organizations, we are trying hard to like fill that gap. It's very small scale, but we are trying to teach Afghan women and girls through online education things like public speaking, so kind of alternative to like education, and I know all of your organizations are doing incredible work in that space. So I think we just have to kind of come together and like collaborate and do something to reach out to those women and girls who are in Afghanistan. I think it's very important. Because otherwise, I don't know what will happen. It's 50% of the population. It's so many girls, and yeah. So the situation is very dark, right? So I think Afghans, we are doing whatever we can, but we need the support of the international community, international organizations. And I know all of you are working in this education space, which is amazing, and especially using AI and technology. And I think that can really play a key role in reaching conflict-affected countries like Afghanistan and Ukraine and other countries. So I just wanted to kind of give this like a message. Yeah.
No, I couldn't agree more. And also it's, do we want to reframe the narrative in terms of, is AI the right terminology? You know, we want to welcome AI in as a fellow tutor. You know, it's not AI or teaching. They're both and one and the same. They're there to help and to coexist. It's how do we welcome it in and it be part of the education moving forwards, not the education moving forwards.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and I think it's part of what has been discussed but hasn't been discussed is sustainable business models around these solutions. And I think with all of the work that is being done for good, and including that, it is figuring out sustainable business solutions. Because as great as our solutions may and can be, if you are reliant on funding and or partners and or donor funding, it is a very tough thing to A, scale, and then also B, to create a sustainable solution. I think that is one thing that within this, within these conversations, even the ZSL like library that we spoke about, what is a sustainable business solution there to get people educated? And if we're going to rely on foundations and funds, yes, there's money in those spaces and places, but it is for the entrepreneurs within the space to also create the sustainable business solution that actually drives your business further that you need to consider. It's been said, like, even Hugh and how he's attacking his business and advice that he got from his business partners, those are things that we need to really consider when you're doing work for good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that you say that, because there's so many models of things that aren't sustainable that we've been able to sustain. So the prison system, you know, they know it's not sustainable, but they're saying it. But also the idea of when the internet was probably first rolled out, you know, was it sustainable? Maybe, maybe not. You know, there's cellular, you know, it's who's going to afford it? HS1, you know, there's all these different things that on the face of it. But if we come back to your point, especially if we start to get governments and various different people involved, you know, it can't just be private organisations. It's got to come from wider communities and understanding it. But I think where there's a will, there's a way. We don't know what the way is, but we know the will is there and it's strong. So, you know, it's just about strengthening the will and making that heart beat and soul come stronger. So, you know, that's the way that I see it. Yeah, Eleanor.
I love the vision of what was laid out today around Toucan Microuniversity, about the work that you're doing to bring these schools to local communities, supported by technology, and it's a big vision that requires a lot of different players from different parts of the ecosystem. One that is potentially infinitely scalable, and we have lots of incredible people in this room. It's one of those things that, you know, it's how long is a piece of string? So I'm curious to know from you, Rasha, what is your, how would you define success this year for you and the Microuniversity, what you want to achieve this year?
As you say, how long is a piece of string, right? And also, where's Alan? I mean, I wouldn't deem success at all without community. It has to be community driven. We've always been people first, and nothing is possible without the student being right at the center and the heart of this. So it has to be, it's student driven, people powered 100%. And I remember being just in a coffee shop, doing some emails, and sitting next to a little, would it be like a tribe of cool little students? And they were plugging in and thinking it was so cool just to be chit-chatting on their telephones. And I thought that would be incredibly cool if they were able to go into one of our modular academies, plug in for the day, and they would sit in there all day learning about the world, sharing their ideas and their vision with each other, and then they'd go out and say, hey, I've just found a really cool place. I want to go back, and go back with more of their friends. That would be amazing. You know, they can just go in there and share their ideas and their knowledge. I mean, my eldest son, he's 10 years old now. What literally is his day, he adores. He puts a backpack on, and he doesn't leave the house without 18 books. 18 books, okay? That's his kind of dream. And what he loves to do is come up with ideas that he shares. And he thinks it's incredibly cool to come up with some kind of theory about the world. And he loves to share those theories. That, for him, is cool. He's like, oh my God, I've just read this thing in this book about Napoleon, and, you know, I have an idea. I think Napoleon did this. And I'm like, oh, it could be real, it could be not real, but I want to hear it. I think it's great. You have this theory. I want to hear the theory. That's amazing. Now tell me all about it, you know? And, you know, to foster that would be fantastic. That's what I'd love to do.
we talk quite a lot about the newer technologies, and Alan said actually earlier, and quite a lot of us seem to be harking back to Alan. He seemed to have an impact on on us in some way or another. Decentralization of technology is incredibly powerful. He mentioned the term peer-to-peer earlier, where the internet is slowly decentralizing to a point where we can actually communicate and serve content directly from our computer, decentralized from central servers around the internet. It's what powers decentralized finance and via the blockchain, for example. When I was a kid at school, I had a pen pal. Now, I was I was encouraged to write to foreign students, actually write a physical letter, and then you'd build up this relationship that would go backwards and forwards. And the British community was always targeting, say, for example, the French community or the Germans or whatever it might be and it would be tied into the language that you're trying to be encouraged to learn at school. But when we're talking about, obviously, the wider community, we can drill it right down to the individual and groups of individuals, clearly. Should we not be considering the individual enablement at a much earlier level to actually communicate with those that are less privileged than us, Syrian, Afghanistan, etc., and getting our students, British students, who more often than not are considerably more enfranchised than the rest of the world, and actually building the relationships on a one-to-one level, if we can, in order to build out the wider community. What do you think?
Well, I'm very happy to take that because I definitely see the micro aspect and the macro aspect to your beautiful question there. And I would definitely say that some of the topics that you're touching on there, there's going to be a revival in those areas in terms of letter writing. Those are, when we're talking about greater, I guess they're deemed life skills, softer skills today, generically speaking. Technology is only one aspect to education. It's not the aspect, it's an aspect. And that's something that's why Alan and I make a very good partnership, because he has a very deep understanding of technology, and I come from the other side, which is a much more traditional side, and I have a deep appreciation for traditional learning. But both together, in parallel, that's what makes blended education work well. You have to embrace online education because it is the future, it's where we're going. But you have to know it has to be, I guess, you have to have a healthy way of looking at it and embrace it in a healthy way. And also ensure that traditional learning keeps up with what is coming. So blended learning is where we need to be.
How can we potentially empower our own students and incentivize them perhaps in such a way that they actually want to help others?
No, well, go for it, please. But yes, I can answer this.
I think Leah should answer this because she's actually that generation. However, you can go for it after me, but I think that you don't have to. I really think if you look at the generation that, Leah, I'm not trying to box you in here, but it is your generation, that do they communicate with each other, teach each other, learn from others? It's like if I look at YouTube is the largest edtech company in the world. And they're looking at other people game, interacting with each other, they're communicating with each other. They don't care where they're from. I'm not saying that is the solution. I'm saying there definitely needs to be enablement of that environment in constructive manners and ways. I think there is a need and desire for it that is coming from that generation.
Microsoft closed down Twitch. There's a decline in these networks, unfortunately. Gaming is a massive opportunity, but the incentive is that it is a game. I mean, we use the horrific term gamification that's now been around for about 20 odd years, but no, you didn't use it, so no criticism. But the the incentive beyond say something that is a game or something that is, I don't know, entertainment, is limited. For me to, well, I'm not talking, not so, a student like Leia perhaps, for you to, well actually you're in the minority, I believe. Yes, very much so. I think there's many, many, many students who simply don't know or consider that they may want to gain through reaching out to others globally, because they simply don't know to, because it's not encouraged, it's not taught.
So what's really interesting, right, is that you two are going to keep going back and forth right in front of Leah. potentially. I think you agree, and yet still, we've yet to hear from, as you suggested. I think it's a poignant point, right?
Thanks. So, thank you very much. I think one thing that I'd love to see as a student in the future is schools being more open to partnerships with schools across countries. For example, exchange student platforms, except if we're able to make that more accessible through making it online and then potentially having students meet up in different countries, I think that's incredible. I think that's how we could move forward, because one of the biggest dividers between students is culture, I'd say. And what's really important is being able to mix cultures together so you yourself get a wider understanding of what's going on. Because, for example, I recently joined the diversity ambassador team at my school, and I'm Greek, so I'm from Cyprus, so I have my own understanding of, you know, my perspective from things. I also have friends from Afghanistan, Iraq, India, but I think what's most important is being in that collaborative space, being able to talk to people from across the world, because we all have our own personal experiences. It's being able to combine those personal experiences together to see what solution would be most beneficial to everybody. And that's basically what I'd like to say. I think encouraging collaboration digitally and meeting up so that you still have that human connection.
That's amazing. How did you cultivate that? How do you cultivate the fact that you've got friends of multiple nationalities? Is that simply as a result of living in London and going to school in London, or is it different methods?
Well, I think living in London has definitely contributed to that, because I'd say this city is perhaps one of the most diverse cities in the world, especially when you look into poorer areas, because that's usually where immigrants, refugees, that's where we all kind of get moved to. But I think it's not just where you're from. We have the internet now, so it's really easy to access media from all across the world. I think it's more schools and people in high positions exposing students to those opportunities, because as much as we want to make these changes, as much as we want to learn, at the end of the day, children tend to want to go for the first thing that comes to mind that seems engaging. And perhaps that might not always be learning about different cultures, learning about different people, but it's such a fun opportunity that often gets overlooked. And I think it's the responsibility of people who are aware to expose children to these opportunities.
Perfect. If we go to Eleanor and then we'll go back there. And if we wrap up for just kind of 4:30ish, that will give us time to network and just exchange details and have a quick conversation as humans as well, individually. So, if you go.
Yeah, I think one of the great things that we've experienced is the power of role modeling and just doing it and showing students how to connect with people they don't know digitally from different parts of the world, and setting the tone for what the values are. And that means welcoming everyone and speaking to everyone and praising people for speaking up, no matter what the questions are. And when the students understand that, okay, it's okay, this is a safe space, and they're with people that care, and then you give them a chance to share a bit of themselves, then you have them engaged, and then you show them, all right, here's a challenge for your group. How are you going to work together and work this out? And then it's amazing to see what happens. And I've seen people, not only from other cultures, but also neurally diverse people, people with who are autistic, who've come into the camps, the sort of helicopter parent outside and wondering if they're going to fit in and if it's going to be okay and stuff. And, you know, slightly different type of communication from the child, but they were welcomed in, and the students were encouraging and embracing them, and even, you know, in a way like kind of protecting them, and that was really beautiful to see. So I think it's about the power of role modeling, and then just doing it, and you know, encouraging them to continue, I think.
Yeah, perfect. What a rich conversation. I mean, this has just been such an amazing audience. I thank you so much. The questions, the conversation, it's just been great. Here you go.
An observation, as we are talking about students getting connected, I thought about Facebook. That was exactly the reason why Facebook was created. And look at it now. It's not really that, is it? It became so big that became impossible to control. And I remember the world before Facebook. And although it seems impossible these days because it takes so much of our lives. But what a fabulous tool to acquire customers. The advertising of that platform really works. Now, but is that the world we want? Is a world of algorithms running how people connect and communicate? It started with a good idea. And I think it would be so much worse if the original founder was not there, actually. I think it's actually good that it's the original founder. Although he has a style that some people may appreciate more than others. He's very authentic, right? It just comes live and says things, which is not what you expect of a CEO of a company that size. He had to. He had to. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was the first Tinder, let's be honest. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. But now we have something, and I'll finish with this. We have the possibility to create digitally enabled businesses quite, you know, it's quite simple. There are platforms out there that enable people to create a community for, you know, like SaaS type driven products. And with the right skill set, everybody can try and connect and create that microgroup of influence. I don't think we need to depend on the big Facebooks and LinkedIn, etc. They really created a segment area, but now there are possibilities. And I wonder, Rasha, what are the resources you're missing to get that going on at a bigger scale, if that is at all the objective? But it's a great idea, a great, you know, it's something the world needs. So what is needed from a very pragmatic point of view to actually get more of it? And if at all, what is the limit for that growth? Because when things become too big, sometimes they lose that quality, that essence.
No, I definitely hear you with regards to quality and to growth. I remember Facebook coming to my dorm. We were college number 4 to get it. And you had to have a college email account. And it was very, very different when we got it. And it became very different when it came over to England. It had changed at that point. And I guess that was their journey, you know? And the one thing I've always I always hold on to, I guess, is it's about the people that are around you, the people that give you the right advice. And if you have the right people around you, which include your family, that keeps you grounded, then hopefully that journey will not only be a long one, but hopefully will be as rooted and true to not only the original concept, but also true to who you are and who your values are. And that's exceptionally important, that the idea will always need to evolve and grow because it has to grow. It's important that you take into account the ever-changing world that we are all part of. But it has to have an essence of where it came from. That's the magic. That's the spark that people will radiate towards. They go, "Ooh, what was the original concept?" That's what people really love. And you just have to find a way of taking that essence, that formula, and growing it in a way which is healthy. And you do that with the right team around you. And if you're really able to do it with the people that you can just keep with you over a long period of time, then hopefully it grows well. But that's, I guess, that's the beauty of long-term relationships.
Excellent. So I think we'll wrap it up there. We're due to finish around kind of 5 o'clock, so we can just get some more refreshments. You can carry on the conversation there without the mics, without the audience. We can have it kind of much more face-to-face. But I'd just really like to say thank you so much. It's just been an amazing day, insightful day, inspiring day, and as the invitation was earlier on, just think about one thing that you can do today, in next week, next month, to make a difference in your own unique way. Thank you. Thank you, Rasha.
Oh.